Hello, welcome to our briefing. My name is Abby Harvey. I work for the BlueGreen Alliance. Just in terms of a little bit of logistics, there will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of the session. We will be collecting those questions throughout, so if you have anything that you want to ask during, you can do so using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And then we'll address all of those during the same session at the end of the event. Now I would like to pass this over to my colleague, Richard Diaz, who will get us started.
Great, thanks, Abby. Good morning, everyone, and thanks to those who are joining us. My name is Richard Diaz. I am the Midwest Regional Field Organizer with the BlueGreen Alliance. And we're here today to highlight the need for federal investment in Wisconsin's drinking water infrastructure. Whether it's lead service lines that need to be replaced in Milwaukee or the PFAS contaminated water in French Island, it is time for our federal government to deliver a big, clean investment into our nation's drinking water. We cannot stand to see another child face irreversible physical and mental damage from lead poisoning. In the same respect, we cannot stand to see another human being diagnosed with cancer from being exposed to PFAS. Too many Wisconsin families cannot rely on access to clean drinking water. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave Wisconsin's drinking water systems a C- grade in their latest report card. Wisconsinites deserve better than below average, especially when it comes to infrastructure that is tied so closely to public health and welfare. We need a recovery for America and by America to build back better, repairing and modernizing our infrastructure, retooling and rebuilding American manufacturing, and investing in our care economy while growing clean energy and energy efficiency. All these investments will deliver good paying union jobs for workers, lift up struggling communities, and clean up our air and water so we leave a planet worth inheriting to future generations. The United States Congress is in the process of debating two pieces of legislation that will provide such funding. These are the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, better known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Deal, and the Buildback Better Plan, or the Reconciliation Package. Together, these pieces of legislation contain very important sources of federal funding for lead service line replacement, PFAS remediation, and testing and remediation of lead in the water in our schools. To tackle the challenges we face, our crumbling infrastructure, racial and economic injustice, climate change and contaminated water, we need both bills to build back better for workers and communities. The bipartisan infrastructure deal cannot be the end of our investments. That's why BlueGreen Alliance is using our For America, By America campaign to push Congress to be bold and to build back better in a cleaner and more equitable way. The time is to act now. I'd like to introduce my co-host this morning, Mr. Jeremy Gregor from National Wildlife Federation. Jeremy?
All right, thank you so much, Richard. My name is Jeremy Gregor. I'm the Wisconsin representative for National Wildlife Federation, live up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And, we're dealing with, PFAS, and we're dealing with lead service lines as well. I just bought a home last year where we, the lead service lines were replaced right before the closing on the home. All my neighbors have been having to have theirs replaced as well. We're really seeing, a lot of importance, toward how we can build back better and ensure that everybody has access to safe drinking water, not just in Eau Claire, but throughout the state of Wisconsin in urban and rural areas. It's really an equity and justice issue. And we're seeing that, the bill that, the bipartisan deal, doesn't really go far enough in terms of, funding for lead service lines. It does, get close to half of what is needed, but we really need the Build Back Better Act as well. And we need to address issues in our schools as well. So, we are really focusing on both bills. And, I've been in touch with Congressman Ron Kind here in Western Wisconsin, met with him on French Island where they're, facing PFAS contamination. Had that meeting back in May. Several of the other panelists here were a part of that. I just met with some of his staff in DC via Zoom and just had a meeting at the farmers market with his Eau Claire staff just to kind of, keep the focus on the fact that Congressman Ron Kind is really a key vote on this. And so, yeah, we're really focused and we really want to hear from a lot of other folks today from across the state, folks that are doing the work as well on lead service lines. And so one person who I actually serve with on the Eau Claire City Council, I'll introduce next, is City Council member Andrew Worthman in Eau Claire.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, and thank you to the BlueGreen Alliance and National Wildlife Federation for your work in bringing this event together. My name is Andrew Worthman. I serve on the Eau Claire City Council and have for the last 4 terms. And in 2016, our community was alarmed and dismayed to see that residents of Flint, Michigan had been drinking contaminated lead poisoned water for years without knowing. It was a catastrophe that helped spur us in Eau Claire, Wisconsin to recognize the issue that lead pipes are in our community and to take action. We have roughly 1,200 homes, families that have lead running to their homes out of 35,000 households. So while we treat our drinking water with lime to coat those pipes and keep lead from leaching in, we knew that the absolute safest thing that we needed to do was to remove all lead pipes from our system. We received our first grant from the EPA in 2017 and have begun replacing lead pipes, and roughly 400 have already been replaced to date. We were aided by an ordinance that we passed that helped make sure that residents were reimbursed for the full cost of removal. And we're now on track and hoping that we can remove every single lead pipe in our community of Eau Claire by 2023. The thing is, we need funding to do that. And we know that we're also not alone in facing this problem. Communities big and small are seeing budget shortfalls, and then they need the support of Congressman Kind and our entire congressional delegation to support both the bipartisan bill and the Buildback Better Act. Both of those bills, both those efforts provide funding for water quality investments, including lead pipes. This year, we found out that we have another problem. And in Eau Claire, half of our city wells have been contaminated by PFAS. And it's above the state DNR standards, so we have to act. These wells have been shut down for now, and we're in the process of reviewing and monitoring. And eventually there will likely have to be cleanup efforts. PFAS, these forever plastics, are the results of industrial processes. And sure enough, not far from our well field are a number of industries that will likely be investigated at some point for this pollution. But to test the water, to put extra resources toward it, to assign more city workers to solving this problem for right now, we're going to need upfront funding for our city to ensure that clean drinking water for every single family. Again, this isn't just in Eau Claire. This is happening in La Crosse. It's happening in Milwaukee. It's happening in large and small communities across our entire state. As a city council member, the people I represent desperately want to know that when they turn on the tap, their family is drinking clean drinking water. They want to know that and have that assurance. And to get there, we're going to need the help of our Congressman Kind. We're going to need the help of our leadership in Washington. And we're going to need to have both the bipartisan bill and Build Back Better Act passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate that. And we'll pass it along to Greg Erickson, business agent for UA Local 434.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. As it was said, my name is Greg Erickson. I'm a business agent, and I work out of Mosinee, Wisconsin. Plumbers and steam fitters and HVAC service techs Local 434 represents over 1,200 highly skilled craftspeople in 30 counties covering central and western Wisconsin. Our members invest in their own education to the tune of $1.5 to $2 million a year to upgrade their skills and get certifications and learn new technologies. Speaking to the clean water investment in this day and age, no one should have to wonder if the water they are drinking is poisoning them or their families. Every community, no matter how big or how small, should be able to provide clean, safe, and affordable water to its residents. This investment for clean water in the bipartisan infrastructure deal would be the largest investment in clean water this country has ever seen and would create jobs for numerous UA members. Our UA members are trained to do the work the right way, thus ensuring the taxpayers get the most out of their investment. Our union members should be doing this work. The materials and components that would be used should be made here in America also. By using materials made right here in the USA, we get extra out of this bill by creating jobs for the manufacturing sector right here at home in America. Congress needs to get this to a vote and get the money out into the communities where it can benefit Americans' health, safety, and their pocketbooks immediately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'll pass it along next to La Crosse County Board Supervisor Jamie O'Neill.
Thank you, Jeremy. As a member of the La Crosse County Board of Supervisors, I understand the importance of local, state, and federal governments working together to solve issues for my constituents. Right now, the best thing that Congress could do would be to pass both of these bills and really address the water quality issues that we have going on around our state. There is a huge need here in our state, and I want to highlight, especially in La Crosse. I know some people have alluded to the PFAS issue. What you might not know is just 10 days ago, people were told by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Health Services that they indefinitely may be drinking bottled water. That's about 4,000 people that are affected here in La Crosse due to that. We've also seen in Holmen, very near La Crosse, and in La Crosse County, they had elevated nitrates in their water due to a CAFO, or a concentrated animal feeding operation. That was back in 2005. People and residents begged the DNR to please not renew that permit. They knew it was a leaky liner that the CAFO had for about 20 years. And they said, please have them renew that so the nitrates stop leaking into our water. And the permit was renewed without stipulations. And now a third of those residents cannot safely drink from their water or from their wells. These are just two of the issues here in La Crosse. There are more and more contaminants. It has been very, very disheartening to see these residents tirelessly advocate for themselves and for clean water and not see change in time before it's too late and before they're not allowed to drink out of their own wells or out of their own faucets. We need to build back better so that we can all work together on getting this clean water. A C- grade is not good enough. The American Society of Civil Engineers think we can do better. I think we can do better. And when it comes to infrastructure that's so closely tied to public health and welfare, we need to do better. I have a master's in public health, and I can confidently say that there's not a more effective way to improve the health and well-being of residents in Wisconsin than to ensure that they have access to clean drinking water.
Thank you so much, Jamie. We'll next go to Jennifer Dietrich from Wisconsin Conservation Voters. She's the Government Affairs Director.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Dietrich. I'm the Government Affairs Director for Wisconsin Conservation Voters. Wisconsin Conservation Voters works with our network of over 40,000 members and supporters to engage voters to protect our environment. No matter where you live in Wisconsin or who you are, water is one of the strongest bonds you can share with your neighbors. Without clean drinking water, no community can thrive. Roughly 1.7 million people in Wisconsin depend on private wells to get their drinking water. It's estimated that 47% of these private wells are contaminated by one or more pollutants at levels above health standards. This is the reality for so many families in our state. Entire communities are at risk for short-term and long-term consequences, ranging from diarrhea to learning disabilities to death. Dangerous pathogens, bacteria, and chemicals are found in manure and industrial wastewater, which can get into our groundwater and ultimately our drinking water. Right now, those private well owners in Wisconsin are left entirely on their own to monitor their well water quality. And we already know that far too many families are not testing their wells on a regular basis. This leaves many families in the dark as to whether their drinking water is safe. A critical component of the Buildback Better Act is an investment in helping rural communities protect their drinking water by reducing non-point pollution from our farms, by incentivizing cover crops and other sustainable farming practices that reduce the need for chemicals and keep pollution from running off our farm fields. The Buildback Better Act also invests in rural small water systems and household well and wastewater systems, so that the financial burden of testing and addressing pollution does not fall on rural families who can least afford it. We encourage voters to contact their members of Congress, including Congressman Ron Kind, to make sure that we pass this necessary investment in safe, clean drinking water, because every person in Wisconsin deserves to know their water is safe to drink. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Our next speaker is Megan Severson, the State Director for Wisconsin Environment.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. I am very pleased to be invited here today to emphasize just how critical the Buildback Better Act is for clean drinking water, and especially for protecting the health of children in Wisconsin and across the country. So we know that there is no safe amount of lead in our water, especially for children, and yet untold numbers of kids are going to school every day and drinking water with lead in it. So this is why President Biden is proposing bold investments to tackle this crisis by replacing 100% of the lead water service lines in the country. Across Wisconsin, lead-bearing fixtures, pipes, and plumbing are contaminating the water that our children drink, including in schools and in daycares. Schools and daycares across the state, everywhere from Janesville, Middleton, Wausau, Milwaukee, have reported lead-contaminated drinking water. So the only way really to ensure that our drinking water for our children is safe is to get the lead out of our schools and our daycares. This involves proactively removing the lead-bearing parts from the drinking water system. So this is with the lead service lines. It's also the faucets and fixtures, and installing filters certified to remove lead at the tap that is used for drinking and for cooking. These steps cost money, but our children's health is absolutely worth it. So the Buildback Better Act would provide the investments needed to replace 100% of the lead service lines, along with the bipartisan infrastructure package. In addition, providing crucial funding to install filters and replace lead-bearing parts at schools where our research shows that there's extensive water contamination. So we know that clean drinking water is vital to the health of our children, and ensuring it should really be a no-brainer for Congress.
All right, thank you, Megan. Our last speaker is Steve Brightlow, Business Manager for UA Local 75. Oh, Steve, you need to unmute.
Yeah, been a while since I Zoomed, sorry. But I do appreciate the comments by everybody previous. And I guess, here in Wisconsin, From our perspective, we believe we're very fortunate to have an ample supply of water as a natural resource. As licensed plumbers in Wisconsin, we're charged with protecting public health, safety, and our natural resources as it relates to water and sanitary systems in our state. It's crucial that we invest in protecting, preserving, and safely utilizing this precious water as a valuable and critical resource. The thoughtful and progressive water stewardship can lead to strong business and labor economy in Wisconsin. From tourism to manufacturing, water will always be a valuable commodity and resource. Lead service replacement is a well-known issue that we have the methodology, the employers, the skilled labor force to address this long lingering infrastructure and public health concern. And, for many years, we've been putting Band-Aids on our infrastructure in kind of a hit or miss, scattered, unconcerted effort, and which we're going to pay for it again by eventually replacing the whole system eventually anyway. So I think it's a good investment to do it in a bigger sweep. There's a direct need to invest now in our state's drinking water systems. We already heard from Megan and others that our state is a long way to go to protect our most vulnerable from lead and water contaminants in our public and private wells and drinking water. This investment in public health and long-term economic viability will not get less expensive by continuing to kick it down the road into the next or future generations. The American Society of Civil Engineers estimates that $8.6 billion will be needed to address water infrastructure deficiencies in the next 2 decades in our state. The longer we wait, the more this deficit will grow over time. The increased investment in drinking water infrastructure is needed to ensure families have a better access to safe, reliable water supply for future generations. It will also grow good paying, union skilled, high skilled jobs that will help build the middle class. Just in Milwaukee since 2017, there was estimated 70,000 lead services still in use in Milwaukee. Since then, we've replaced a little over 4,000 of them. Average cost is between $9,000 and $11,000 per lead service. And since 2017, the number of employers performing this work has increased. In 2017, we had 15 contractors that were certified to do it, and now we're somewhere between 20 and 25, depending on how many are, what the demand is or the opportunity to replace them is out there. We certainly can replace every lead service line in our state. Members of Local 75 are trained and ready to get to work building back better. We need members of Congress to vote now to make this investment a reality and get serious about solving the problem and put skilled workers to work by passing both the infrastructure bill and the Build Better Act plan. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to thank all of our panelists today. We've heard from local elected officials, labor leaders, and environmental activists and organizations about what we need to do to get this job done. I'd like to open the floor for questions, and we can begin that now. Please use the Q&A chat function to ask any questions you may have. All right, that concludes our question and answer portion of our event. I'll kick it back over to Jeremy for any last comments.
Thank you so much, Richard, and really want to thank you for kind of leading the way on this and co-hosting the BlueGreen Alliance with the National Wildlife Federation on this event, and really want to thank our speakers and the press for joining us. Really, obviously, the next couple of weeks is really critical in Washington as the Buildback Better Act is considered and moves forward along with the bipartisan infrastructure deal. And we're going to be continuing to advocate to make sure that safe, clean drinking water are a part of those. And moving forward, we'll all continue to advocate. So thanks so much, everybody, for joining us, and we'll wrap it up here.